Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jessica Basulik-Siever, North American Marketing Manager at ITSM. I will be your webinar facilitator today. We are pleased to present a webinar on IT maturity and choosing the ITSM toolset that is right for you. In this webinar, Kevin Patterson, Business Solutions Consultant at ITSM, will dive into why understanding IT maturity is key to relevant ITSM technology, what IT maturity looks like at each step on the path to IT excellence, and typical technology requirements at each stage of IT maturity. We'll now begin with the presentation. Afterwards, we'll jump into an open Q&A discussion. If you have a question, please use the question function in the control panel to ask. Now, without further ado, Kevin, over to you.
Thank you, Jessica. As Jess just mentioned, we've got a large agenda for you today talking about this topic. We're going to cover what exactly is IT maturity. We'll discuss why it matters and the path of IT maturity. We'll talk about it being accumulative, and we'll look at a couple different scoring mechanisms from Gartner, Axelos, and Microsoft primarily. We'll talk about testing for relevance and why this is important to improve IT maturity. We'll look at different maturity levels and actions to get there, and we'll talk about where to start. Now, to begin, what exactly is IT maturity? IT maturity is defined by the collective set of IT capabilities an organization has. It's about what the IT department can do for the business. These capabilities are enabled by processes, practices, structures, skills, knowledge, data, tools, policies, documents, and other entities and assets. Now, all businesses are different, so what looks good can vary between many different types of organizations. Each IT department needs a specific set of capabilities to enable a platform for good business performance. Thus, a mature IT organization is relevant to the needs of the business, operates efficiently, and can flex to meet the rapidly changing business requirements. Now, low maturity IT organizations tend to deliver the wrong thing slowly and at an unacceptable cost, and they fail to adapt quickly when the needs of the business change. So why does IT maturity matter? Or should we ask, why is it important to the business that IT is highly capable, efficient, and a flexible organization? So when I put it that way, the importance seems obvious. It is the word maturity that people find ambiguous and confusing, precisely for the reason that it means different things to different people and their organization. In different terms, a highly mature IT organization can do more for the business faster and more efficiently than a low maturity IT organization. It is more capable and competent. In the information age, business performance relies on IT excellence, which in turn relies on IT maturity. IT maturity compromises a broad set of capabilities. The general abilities of the IT organization to deliver outcomes, which are themselves founded on processes, practices, organizational structures, skills, knowledge systems, data tools. As you can see, quite a lot of information. Technology is a critical enabler for new products, data-driven products, digital customer experiences, operational efficiencies, and business insights. Processes, practices, structures, skills, knowledge, as we see here on the screen. It has to be efficient, not drawing unnecessary budget away from developing the business. It has to be responsive to operational demands for the business. It also has to be responsive to business transformation. Fundamental changes in the business environment and operations mean a shift in what the business thinks good IT should look like. When you're discussing IT maturity with business stakeholders, you're discussing what good looks like. The takeaway from this slide is that IT maturity is defined by the business context. Maturity looks different in different industries. So why are we talking about IT maturity? As mentioned earlier, low maturity means poor service, delivered slowly at an unacceptable cost, with a disjointed experience that irritates our end users. High maturity means the right outcome is delivered rapidly, at a good cost, and compares favorably with outsourcing options, and with a smooth customer experience that just works for the end user. If we don't know where you are and where you're going, you won't know where you'll need to be when you get there. So an IT maturity assessment and an IT maturity roadmap are tools to leverage to do this. So let's take a look at the path to IT maturity. As you can see, the path to IT maturity is a path of many transformations. So let's look at this in terms of transformations. IT maturity can seem ethereal, so it's easy for skeptics to dismiss it as simply chasing a score. Look at what is happening in terms of the new attributes IT will exhibit in a way of presenting IT maturity as a real tangible thing. There are a number of different threads to IT transformation, and IT maturity roadmap enables them all. On the left are the changes that will appeal to most IT people. As we move to the right, these transitions are more relevant to the people out in the business arena. Let's start with management. First, as you can see at the bottom left corner, chaos rules. Nothing is under management, and firefighting defines IT operations. IT people working late most nights and most weekends. Their task list is literally endless. Issues appear as fast as they are resolved. It's not faster. It just requires more work. IT operations processes are undocumented at this point, operating on a hairball infrastructure. Over time, processes are defined and the infrastructure is mapped. IT managers give visibility of what's there and what's happening, which allows a level of control to be applied. Now, the next level, technology from the bottom, we'll start with physical. The old days of outdated legacy hardware and software consumption requires more time, resources than they're worth, but there is no clear path to an alternative without massive business disruption. It's disjointed and unintegrated. There's just no enterprise architecture defined. Now, going up from this, we have standardized, tackling device sprawl to reduce maintenance and support overheads, consolidate license positions, free up some of those resources and budget for improvements. Continuing up, we'll talk a little bit about virtual, embracing new architectures to achieve efficiencies and centralized control, enable high availability and greater resilience. Now, as we get a little higher here, we'll talk about the automated. Automation eliminates most legwork. IT has the slack to proactively automate routine tasks and eliminate the waste. Lean thinking, lean systems thinking begins to flourish there. At the top of this pillar is going to be the orchestrated. Here we have intelligent end-to-end provisioning and lights-out detection healing, which handles common requests and failures with zero human intervention, releasing resources and budget for IT to execute and eventually lead that digital agenda. Now, other areas, so we need to talk about, here's also the reactive, see nothing before it's actually happening, proactive, preventing forward thinking. IT becomes less and less visible to end users. Stuff just works. People have fewer reasons to call the service desk. Failures are reduced and values being improved through continuous improvement. Now, strategic, innovation, creative, and preemptive, making IT visible again. But for the right reasons. Historically, we're always visible when things go wrong, but now we're being recognized for things going right. We're engaging with business units to design and implement creative technical solutions to business problems and ultimately end user customer problems. IT people take on the role of technology consultants, innovators, and integrators, or agents for the business. Now, when we start talking about focus from the bottom up here, a device obsession kind of starts going away. We're establishing and tinkering with our processes. Quality success is no longer reliant on individual efforts. For those that read the Phoenix Project or Project Phoenix, think back to Brent. Brent was the guy, very device focused. We needed him. Now we're kind of maturing beyond that with our better and mature processes here. Now, moving over to contribution in terms of perception, IT is first seen as a cost center, struggling to keep systems online, delivering little value to the business. Then somewhere in the middle, IT becomes a more reliable service provider, and then finally transitions into a technology-driven agent for business change, driving productivity and helping to create new technology and data-driven market offerings which boost the bottom line. Now, all the way to the right, we see the alignment here. This is where the integration of people, the service portfolio, and other areas can help eliminate those false boundaries between IT and the business. So when we dive into the actual changes as IT matures, it shows that a strategic program to improve IT maturity is not just about checking boxes to achieve a higher score, but about genuine transformation of what IT does and how it does it. Now, we talk about maturity levels as being distinct. The reality is that each layer of maturity has a strong dependencies on the lower levels. To rank maturity at level 3, you must have the capabilities that constitute levels 1 and 2 in place, and embedded is a stable platform. If you're at level 3, you're also at levels 2 and 1. For example, if you want to present an actionable service catalog to the business, you need to have your service delivery processes in place first. If you want to present a predictable deliverable time and date, you will need to have an understanding of how long each step in the process typically takes and what is the critical path. In order to set up, you need to build the next step and maintain and perhaps adjust the steps below. As you can imagine, IT operations becomes more complex as your IT organization becomes more mature. So automation tools are vital. High IT maturity simply can't be achieved without technology. If you neglect the lower tiers and layers, the tower collapses. So you need to maintain a whole system view of IT maturity. You're building an ecosystem made up of people with skills, processes delivering outcomes, technical tools and instrumentation, dashboard reports, and user experiences. Now, unfortunately, the size of these blocks doesn't represent the level required to move up. So for the maturity assessments, we're going to take a look at three of the maturity models that are typically out there today. Each one looks at IT from a different perspective and scope. When you shine a light from many different angles, you see the true dimensions of what you're dealing with and get a well-triangulated 3D view, including all those hidden areas. So the big three are the Gartner IT score model, which is broad and covers people, process, technology, and management maturity. The other, the Axios ITIL model, is very focused on process. And the final being the Microsoft IO model, which is more technology focused. If you find that people aspects are where your deficiencies lie the most, you may like to look at the people capability maturity model, which focuses specifically on this aspect of your organization. So it is extremely valuable to be aware of the different aspects of IT operations that each of these models focus on. Then you can decide which model or combination of models will serve your purposes best. Now let's take a deeper look at some of these models. We're going to start with Gartner's IT score for infrastructure and operations because their model has the broadest scope and it sets the scene for evaluating IT maturity in a well-rounded way. Typical time commitment for this model is about 1 to 2 hours, completing 250 questions. Now, it's a 5-level maturity model, but it also has 4 dimensions. It looks at 4 broad aspects of IT and the way it's organized and managed. These are people, process, technology, and business management dimensions, which we'll be getting into in just a moment. Now, the usage of these documents is geared around benchmark for your current maturity levels. When you have it, you can run what-if analysis to test investment proposals to find out what's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. And you can retest quarterly or annually to quantify the improvement and track your progress as you're moving up that maturity model. Now, pro tip here, there are other Gartner score models for other areas of IT in the business. So if your organization is already using one of these, that can help you have conversations about a mature IT organization and its needs. It's worth asking around to find out other Gartner models that might be in use at your business. Some examples would be program portfolio management, enterprise content management, data-driven management. There's a whole list you can find right there on Gartner's website to kind of get you started on other models being used today. Now, I want to spend some time and kind of break down each dimension into a number of attributes and categories, which is a very helpful framework for making sure we evaluate more than just process maturity. Let's take a look at people first. So people, the organization refers to how people are organized into groups, the teams and how they are tiered in the first line, second line, and third. Then there's roles, culture, skills, and training. And then, of course, metrics, which are attributes is how performance measures are used to focus effort and how they are awarded. Next is the process tier. It's about assessing how quickly, efficiently, and correctly the IT organization can perform processes and deliver specific outcomes. Think of resolving incidents, root cause analysis for problems, and making changes. Now, focus, that's the processes which the IT organization focuses on, is a general indicator for process maturity. How mature organizations usually are trying to fix incident and problem tends to mean they're lower on that maturity scale. Now, after this, they tend to move on to change and configuration management and other areas of IT. Now, integration, the extent to which the relationships and dependencies between processes like incident, problem, change are understood, and the degree to which they work together to deliver positive outcomes and quick, efficient manner. Finally, metrics, process performance metrics are critical success factors, a tool for driving process improvement. In higher maturity organizations, process metrics are typically balanced against service performance or customer satisfaction metrics to ensure processes are not being over-optimized to the point where they're having a negative impact to the system as a whole. Now, there simply isn't time today in this presentation to dive deep into each of these attributes, but if you're a Gartner client, you'll be able to access a plethora of related documents, as well as have a chat with one of their analysts to get a better handle of how you can use this model. Now, I want to spend a few minutes here and talk about the Gartner IT score for I&O, what we have today for rankings and values over the last 8 years. In the last 8 years, average IT maturity scores have only risen from 2.25 to 2.36. That's less than 5% of forward movement in the better part of a decade. Now, when you look at it this way, it's very easy to see why CEOs and CFOs have been reluctant to boost the CIO's budget, and do more with less has become the standard response to requests. Now, at this point, I'm going to convert this over to a line chart so you can kind of see a little better both the rise and the dips we've seen over those last years. And I believe we have a poll question scheduled. Jess, do you want to kick off that poll question? Looks like, where do you see your organization's ITSM maturity today? Select one. I believe the items are 1, between 1 and 2, a solid 2, between 2 and 3 and above. And we'll give you just a few minutes or a few moments to answer that question, and we'll continue on with the presentation. Okay, the poll results are in, and we'll talk about those just a little bit later. Now, looking at this line chart, I'm going to change the focus here a little bit. We'll look at this, how we need to mature. And at this rate, it's going to take us about 80 years to achieve an average IT maturity score of 3.0, the level Gartner says is required to deliver digital business solutions. Clearly, this is not fast enough. IT needs to be more proactive and improve our capability in terms of efficiency and agility. So again, the golden number here is 3.0, and it's going to take us about 80 years to get there. Now, kind of the silver lining here is that right now, 10% are here. So there is hope. You know, although most organizations are stuck below this glass ceiling of mediocre performance, the top 10% are already at level 3 or above, according to the last research published by Gartner in 2017. Now, these are the guys that are delivering digital solutions to business problems to both internal and external customers. So in the digital age, getting ahead of the pack in terms of IT maturity and agility is an obvious competitive differentiator. So let's move on from the Gartner model and talk a little bit about the Axelos model. Now, the Axelos maturity model is process-focused and is very specific to ITIL. As such, it offers a limited scope, but can output some very prescriptive recommendations as to what to do next to improve your operational quality and efficiency. Now, the assessment itself includes a massive 2,600 questions, 50 aimed at producing a quick high-level assessment, and the remaining 2,600 to kind of get down to all the process areas and functions. So obviously, the time investment here is going to be much higher than the 2 hours the Gartner model requires, but might be of value to you and your organization. Now, a recent report from HDI, the Help Desk Institute, shows that IT service and support processes are self-ranked, are more mature than others. Now, this is a report by HDI says that when asked a poll of users they have, that most of them rank their process maturity much, much higher than what we're seeing in the Gartner results. So I kind of side-eye the report a little bit, but the values are probably close to real life. We believe we're more mature in processes than other areas of our business, like people, technology, and management. Now, if we take a look at these reports side by side with Gartner and HDI, we can assess multidimensional aspects of IT. We can see that in the HDI study, almost 70% of organizations rank themselves as level 3 maturity or above when it comes to processes, yet only 10% of Gartner clients are ranked at 3.0 or higher when assessed in broader terms. So we see that processes are the most mature aspect of IT. They're dragging up the average. Strong process maturity is, generally speaking, hiding very weak people, technology, and business management aspects. This is a key reason why IT organizations need to work hard to pinpoint their own strengths and weaknesses. What does this tell us? You know, process improvement is important, but the real work to be done is in other areas. This ties in with the general appearance that low maturity IT organizations, levels 1 and 2, are focused on infrastructure and processes respectively, and are not giving the human management and tools aspect of IT proper consideration. Now, moving on to the Microsoft infrastructure model, as the name suggests, it's highly focused on infrastructure management, and automation is the key theme. The IO model is a rare instance of a 4-level model, no doubt to make it look simple. However, there are 5 threads that run through it. So from identity and access management through infrastructure, hardware to security, data protection, and recovery, it also does touch on IT ops processes. So the IO model is broader in scope than the Axelos ITIL maturity model. So stats from Microsoft, the latest we have is from 2015, show that a vast majority of organizations haven't reached the halfway point yet. Only 5% are in a position to support new digital initiatives that reshape business operations and customer experience. Now, it should be remembered that the business is the ultimate arbiter of IT maturity. So the results of any IT maturity assessment must be validated against business opinion. IT may think it has the right capabilities in place, but the business view is different. Some capabilities will be performing well and living up to expectations. Some may be underperforming. Some expected capabilities might be absent. Others may be there to satisfy legacy requirements from which the business has moved on, technical debt. This is why it is very important for an IT organization to be aware of the limitations of the off-the-shelf maturity models. There will not be an exact match. The assessment model may say all boxes are checked, so everything is good, but the business stakeholder perception may be the polar opposite because IT is failing to deliver on specialized requirements. So use the maturity model as a starting point, but don't make scoring a high mark on a model an objective in of itself. This may take you in the wrong direction and pull what IT does even further away from what the business needs. For example, IT may be focusing on building out these ITIL processes to drive efficient IT operations. Meanwhile, business stakeholders are crying out for mobile support tools, big data analytics, an app store, a shared services portal. You know better than I the things they're asking for today. And it's never a good idea to wave a high maturity score in the face of a business executive who is unhappy with its IT performance. Doing so will only cement the opinion that IT is out of touch with what the business needs. So why is it so difficult to improve maturity? If we look at level 1, there's nothing much really happening here. In fact, there's a risk that performance might actually drop because nothing is really stable. Most of the high performance activity is pinned to the effort and experience of key individuals. So when key staff leave, there's an obvious impact in terms of quality. At level 2, we see performance start to rise as repeatable processes are introduced and become institutionalized. When the situation improves, staff churn drops and the staff becomes more stable, which in of itself is in the foundation for the ability and the activity that needs to happen when approaching level 3 maturity. But it's at level 3 that we see the steepest gradient on the maturity curve. This is where it gets tough. Now let's talk about why. So the complexity of IT infrastructure is one of the main challenges. The diversity of architecture and endpoints is exploding. The number of elements that are going through a transformation is another challenge. Infrastructure architectures are going from physical to virtual. End user expectations are constantly changing. Interfaces are going from human to digital. People need to shift their mindsets from a technology focus through a process focus to a service focus. Culturally speaking, people need to give up the knowledge is power attitude and start proactively volunteering their knowledge. The IT operations management tool set has also inevitably expanded to get the organization to the high 2s and low 3s. As the technology that supports business operations has become more diverse and complex, so has the technology that supports IT operations. Now, the crux point of most of these challenges hits at level 2, culminating in a perfect storm halfway along the maturity journey. Now, but each of these challenges has a solution. Addressing each one of these individually is beyond the scope of the webinar, but as an example, infrastructure sprawl is a key challenge. The way to handle sprawl is to rationalize, and where you can't rationalize, assign ownership. Make it somebody's job to drive improvement. In some cases, that could be an external third party. Very common these days is external infrastructure services like Azure and AWS. Now, moving on, what's the answer? In the face of such complexity, the key to improving IT maturity is to get back to the basics. apply simple strategies to gain visibility and control over the IT estate, and get IT activity firmly lined up with business demand. Great IT operations always starts with great people. A highly mature IT organization isn't a product of a rigid 5-year plan and micromanagement. Delegation is a critical mechanism for cutting through the complexity of executing the plan. So recruiting, organizing, motivating, empowering, and delivering people are critical success factors. People need to understand the vision of the business and where it fits into the purpose of the organization and the value chain, so they can actually make lightweight day-to-day decisions on priorities without having to escalate everything. They also need to be on board with IT leadership's vision for improving IT. There are many IT people who have come to accept constant firefighting as the norm, and to accept that average is as good as it gets. An IT maturity roadmap is an organizational change project as much as a technical challenge. It will need the support of everybody in IT and the business to achieve success. To open the door to higher maturity, IT needs to excel at the core processes: incident, problem, change, configuration, request, service level management, which have been the highest immediate impact on service and support quality. Mastering these is an essential weapon in the battle to put out the ongoing fires and switch IT from reactive to proactive. Now, management needs to fundamentally shift from managing devices to managing delivery of outcomes while controlling these associated costs. We mentioned complexity was one of the primary challenges for IT today. The overarching technology strategy should be manage complexity by simplifying the technology in the IT environment and using tools to manage the complexity. As Einstein said, everything should be made as simple as possible, but no simpler. When facing a problem, IT people instinctively want to stretch out their technical muscles and tend to create elaborate solutions, which collectively form a hairball architecture of different systems. The tactile challenge are to reverse the hairball, rationalize the IT estate, retire legacy systems which add no value, and apply standards to streamline delivery and support. Nothing that exists should be an orphan. Everything should play a part in fulfilling a business objective. Everything should be visible and under central control. In essence, the key is to focus on what's relevant right now. Focus on the IT operations processes which have the most impact on your business productivity and innovation. Focus on technology which underpins the most critical business processes, including your innovation initiatives. Focus on fostering information sharing and collaboration to solve these business problems. And focus on running of IT as an efficient, value-generating entity, not just device janitors. Now, the other key word here is balance. As it stands, process maturity outpaces maturity of other areas. IT people are revving up processes while other areas are dragging the performance of the whole down. Applying balance is about stepping back to check where the weaknesses and bottlenecks are. Most often, it's not the latest toolset innovations that will gain the most traction. Cutting-edge product features tend to benefit higher maturity IT organizations who are ready for them. Most organizations need to be realistic and focus on the basics. Now, there is little point to get to grips with the ITIL demand management process when the incident and problem management processes are patchy. Likewise, tools to enable digital collaboration between IT people and the business people will provide little value when end users are continually plagued by the same reoccurring infrastructure problems. Now, using an IT maturity model to plot out a path to excellence is all about learning to walk before you learn to run. It's about breaking down the journey from where you are now to where you want to be into manageable chunks, where each step is very stable and has a defined plateau. So, using the de facto standard 5-level model on which most IT and business maturity models are typically created, we'll take a look at what each model looks like and what needs to be put in place to take a step up to the next level of maturity. Now, at the lowest rung of the ladder, a level which Gartner refers to as awareness, but CMM and Axelos typically call initial, the IT organization is in chaos and aware that something needs to be done. So let's dive into the typical attributes of level 1 organizations, what level 2 capabilities look like, and the additions and challenges that need to be made to make the jump from level 1 to 2. So to start, level 1 is defined by ad hoc firefighting. It's unstable infrastructure and disorganized teams and processes with no formal process in place. There's little collaboration, little knowledge sharing. Successful outcomes are reliant on skills and experience of the individual people. Now, people are typically disconnected. They don't communicate readily on activity. They don't share data and information or collaborate to solve issues. People are knowledge selfish. They keep what they know to themselves to protect job security in a culture which is all about continually working to avoid disaster. Consequently, IT people continually waste time reinventing the wheel and applying suboptimal solutions to technical and business problems. Then there's process. Processes are largely absent at this phase, undefined and unmeasured. They exist outside of the sphere of management. There's no overall visibility of activity or performance. Performance of process are tasked very widely in terms of speed and quality depending on who performs them, which means outputs are inconsistent and the risk of failure is very high. With a lack of defined process and a lack of knowledge sharing, IT people frequently waste time reinventing the wheel and outcomes are never optimized. And with no global visibility of activity, teams are often inadvertently working against each other. Now, at the management side, there's just no communication of vision of what IT should look like. It doesn't actively solicit feedback from the end users. There is no mechanism to close the loop and drive improvements that will enhance outcomes. However, it's likely that IT gets plenty of unsolicited negative feedback or other common scenarios where the business people have stopped talking to IT department and using shadow IT. Now, some will have a friendly IT guy who will they'll go to with issues, kind of a fan club, because they have proven themselves to be competent, meaning they will have IT people are the ones tied up with break fix, aren't able to work on other more value driving issues. So very shallow financial view at this stage as well, probably covering CapEx spending only, no understanding of how IT spend on hardware and software, people maps to service accounting. In fact, IT operations performance goes largely unmeasured, and what is measured is only ever reported internally to no business or no business stakeholders. IT is really just a black box. Lastly, technology. The IT estate is sprawling hairball of mixed systems and architectures with little or no integration between them. Data is typically locked up in silos, so the organization is missing out on many business benefits. The IT estate is heavily it's kind of stratified, blended legacy systems with new systems. Some legacy systems may no longer support any business requirements at all, leaving them pretty much orphaned, but still drawing power, maintenance, and even upgrades. Now, with no map of the IT estate, IT is effectively working in the dark. Fixes have a negative knock-on effect, and IT cannot tell what is useful to the business and what is not. So moving on, getting to level 2. What does level 2 look like? Level 2 IT is still in a reactive mode, but with basic processes in place, positive outcomes are delivering more quickly and kind of consistently. The commitment to improve has been made, and IT is working to improve infrastructure quality and root out efficiencies. IT now has a kind of a shallow but accurate view of the IT estate, but enough change control to establish a baseline of infrastructure stability. Now, standardization and consolidation are beginning to pay dividends in terms of maintainability, supportability, and overall TCO. People are more attentively being, paying attention to the process. IT staffs are given training on day one, allowing them to communicate policies and procedures, but little or no ongoing training. Now, processes are unsophisticated at this stage, but they are getting formalized. They are visible and accepted, enabling predictable, repeatable, and solid foundation for process improvement. It is likely that a functional incident and problem management process are in place at this stage, complemented by basic change and configuration management processes. Now, training, again, is informal and patchy, meaning process adherence is also patchy, with issues arising where there are gaps. However, processes are owned here. Somebody has responsibility, so they are now improvable. Now, improvements tend to focus on making processes more efficient, better for IT people, instead of providing faster, better outcomes for the customer. Now, from a management perspective, project management methodology, we're getting better with stability. Basic disaster recovery management's in place at this stage. End user satisfaction surveys are starting to go out, so we know what our customer feels we're doing for them. We get to find out what they want to give them better service. Now, on the technology side, systems monitoring tools are starting to get be put in place, with tools in place to make sense of vast quantities of event-driven data every hour, every minute, with thresholds and correlations enabled to turn events into incidents in our system. So we talked about level 1. We talked about level 2. Let's focus more on the work it takes to transition from level 1 to level 2 maturity. First, we'll talk about the people. Now, remember, they're disconnected at first, so they don't communicate readily. They don't share data. People are still knowledge selfish. So we've got to get past that. The more people share knowledge, the more successful IT can be. The more successful IT is, the more successful the business is. The only real route to job security is job security only exists in companies that are successful, stable, and competitive. So we got to shift that mindset from being knowledge hoarders to knowledge sharers. Now, moving on to the processes. The aim here is to get the processes under control. Apply rudimentary incident and problem management processes to reduce the amount of time spent firefighting repeated issues. There's a need for at least rudimentary change management here as well. Now, this is about assuming a more formal approach to processes. Identify objectives of your processes, what values to be created, document the current processes, allocate resources to make the process an official part of people's workloads, especially when process cross teams or departments. Assign a process owner to take responsibility and implement a system of record to guide activity, record notes, and provide management oversight to enable prioritization and performance analysis. Now, at the management level, we're looking at project management methodologies here. Basic project portfolio management should be done. The ability to prioritize IT improvement projects in terms of the biggest impact of business KPIs. For technology, we need simplification. We need to reduce the burden and automation and do some automation, eliminating some of the manual waste where we can. Unless the personal human touch is a value add to a task, automate it. Remote control to eliminate the overhead of desktop visits. Client management tools to manage configurations, releases, upgrades, and patches. We need to start applying standard desktop images to enable more efficient, effective support and reduce your TCO. In the data center, it's about finding the infrastructure that isn't adding value and retiring it or retasking it. Now, on the IT ops side, if you're looking at IT ops tools, you'll need something to help you define, apply, and enforce IT processes. Some tools, like our own Assist tool set, come with IT processes or ITIL processes out of the box and let you quickly adapt with a drag and drop editor. Make sure you pick a tool that gives you this flexibility, as you don't want to be stuck with a process that's dictated by the tool. You're going to be creating and managing a lot of process flows throughout your journey to IT maturity. So you want technology that makes it easy to do this without coding. You also want a tool that is going to give you service-oriented visibility of your IT infrastructure. This will help you identify redundant systems and services and pave for standardization and consolidation of what you need to keep. Collaboration tools can help facilitate communication between teams, but these should be launched to augment initiatives to improve offline collaboration. Tools can never fully replace face-to-face interaction, which will always be the most effective means of communication. Self-service incident logging and service request logging are another critical success factor for releasing the IT resources you will need to make further progress on your IT journey of maturity. Together with an online store of FAQs, they will take some of the strain off your frontline IT. So we've looked at the typical attributes of level 1 and 2 and the work that needs to be done to make that transition. Now we'll look at the next stage, the one that IT organizations seem to be finding the most difficult, making the shift from reactive to a proactive mode. Let's look at the attributes that typically define level 3 maturity organizations and see what work needs to be done to get there from level 2. So this is a point at which Gartner considers an IT organization to be mature. IT is a stable utility IT service provider. Stability is enabled through standardization of infrastructure and the application of mature standard processes. Through the establishment of a solid foundation and extensive automation to take the strain, level 3 is where IT begins to evolve more rapidly. With business operations running smoothly, IT creates sufficient slack to proactively reduce TCO and apply automation in high demand areas, releasing sufficient resources and funds for large-scale development projects such as executing the company's digital agenda. IT can, to a fair degree, track changes in business requirements to support change demands. IT isn't necessarily leading the business in the technology matters, but IT is perceived as a trusted support organization which keeps systems operating at a high performance and fast resolves issues quickly. People. Sufficient supporting processes, knowledge, and tools are in place to keep major variations in performance between one tech and another. Knowledge is spread more evenly, so the workload can be spread more to different staff on individual teams, releasing those bottlenecks that occur at most frontline organizations. A commitment to focused training helps to further enable efficient productivity. People are transitioning from a process focus to a service focus, with customer service training being a priority for the service desk. Training as a part of the onboarding process is supplemented by ongoing training programs, which are regularly assessed through changing requirements. IT is now seen as an investor in people, and the churn rate for staff is reduced. The vision for improvement that people see from management and investment in personnel development gives them a greater sense of both purpose and mastery, two key elements of motivation. The thread of knowledge management theme begins here. When a system of record is used to capture notes against incidents and problems, a byproduct is the creation of searchable knowledge bases. Now, the process here, we're looking at core ITIL processes are accepted and embedded, now part of muscle memory of the organization. They are robust and scalable, and the IT organization can handle sizable fluctuations in demand without the ripple effect on other services and activities. Now, process training is universal, meaning processes are communicated and adherence is very high, eliminating many of those issues that come from non-compliance with standard processes. The relationships between dependent processes are well understood, with IT people seeing the whole as per the lean principle. Now, from here on, IT managers can focus on global optimization of processes with visibility of the downstream impact. Now, management, here it's at the point where IT flips from mostly reactive to proactive. Ad hoc changes are prohibited, and proper planning of activities become the new cultural norm. With mature process improvements and enforcing policies, good visibility of infrastructure, performance trends, current planning activity enable IT to look ahead and spot potential risks to the business. Now, IT is also more transparent, reporting on spend and performance to external business stakeholders. Performance is measured from a number of different angles, covering system performance, process performance, service performance, and customer satisfaction. Now, this provides a balanced view of performance in terms of internal technical view and the external customer perception view of IT performance. Well-established processes are now culturally ingrained, making for a very stable and dependable IT organization. Now, switching over to technology, infrastructure is designed and managed to support efficient, flexible, and robust service provisioning. With virtualization and architectural redundancy in place, complete real-time visibility devices, systems, including virtual, and services ensure IT is no longer caught off guard by unavoidable issues. Visibility of performance is improved with the application of role-appropriate dashboards, and then high availability capability architectures like elasticity and component redundancy are in place, with automated failover to ensure business-critical systems are always available. So moving from level 2 to 3 is probably the biggest step, involving the most effort and transformation. There's a reason why most organizations get stuck here. So on the people side, at this stage, IT people will see that improvement is possible and the path forward is clear. There is clear purpose beyond day-to-day firefighting, so motivation is high, but this needs to be reinforced by good leadership, ongoing communication, and targeting training. In particular, service desk agents will require customer service training to introduce and embed a new customer-focused culture. Now, looking at the process, we start to examine process dependencies and see where processes can be more seamlessly integrated to make operations faster. It's essential that processes work well together and share data. Otherwise, the constant grinding of gears between teams will wear people down very quickly. Here we start to define standard changes where the impact is minimal, so IT can deliver a set of business outcomes without invoking the full change process, which will be a lot slower. So technology changes here as well. On the technology side, we continue with the strategy of standardization and consolidation and begin to apply virtualization in order to deliver greater flexibility. IT services that don't differentiate for the business can be outsourced to specialized cloud providers in order to enhance IT's focus on the most important IT systems and services. From an IT ops perspective, you need everything to go from 1 to 2 would be a plus. These next things like advanced process workflow, support for standard processes, actionable service catalog, a service-oriented CMDB, they're going to be key to helping you go from that level 2 to 3. You're going to want to also focus on making sure you've got a great self-service experience for the users, a service catalog, and the ability to provide mobile support and service request applications inside of your current tool set. So at level 3, IT is a stable utility type organization. The next transition is to a level where IT consistently delights the end user community, providing a slick digital customer experience which mirrors the experiences they have in their consumer lives. Now we're talking about going from that level 3 to level 4. Now again, going back to the Gartner model we looked at earlier, knowing that a very small percentage of organizations are here today. So less than 10% are at level 3, about 10% at level 3, about 2% of organizations get to this stage. So we've got a long way to go as an IT collective to be able to get to this level. So let's talk a little bit about what this level actually looks like. So here at level 4, IT is a trusted service provider that can demonstrate the value of what it does. The IT department is recognized as supporting business productivity. IT is run like a business. Operational performance is monitored at a very granular level. Service demand utility and thus business value is tracked and can be attributed back to the business units that consume them. End user satisfaction is monitored as a source of feedback and a KPI for IT. Now, people. At this level, IT people understand the business model, have formed relationships with their different counterparts across the organization. Technologies and devices are viewed for what they are, a means to an end, and the focus is firmly on services, the value they provide, and how happy service users are, as these guys are ultimate arbiters of service quality. Now, moving on to processes are fully recognized and followed. The outputs are quick and consistent, so the emphasis turns primarily to efficiency and the quality of the experience. Now, moving on to management. IT begins to add business KPIs to metrics and dashboards so it can see the whole view context and how IT services are impacting business performance. On the technology front, infrastructure is designed and managed for flexibility with little or no human intervention. Capacity management is automated, harnessing the elastic nature of virtual platforms to ensure high service availability. Development teams can instantly create and collapse their own dev and test instances, substantially decreasing time to market. Mature monitoring tools have visibility of physical and short-lived virtual assets. Now, going from level 3 to 4 takes a dramatic amount of work here. We'll talk about those steps required at this stage. On the people side, as fewer IT process tasks are relied on human effort, now is the time for IT people to begin building bridges with business counterparts. IT people must work to understand the business context and how key business processes work so they can help automate. Now, on the process side, the IT process footprint begins to extend out to cover the full IT service lifecycle. So making service strategy, service design, transition, and continual improvement more formal in the organization. Thinking about how technology changes, service automation is a critical success factor for moving up the maturity ladder. IT organizations need to fully automate service delivery processes to happen at a digital speed. Talking about IT operations, this is where financial management of IT becomes really important, with IT beginning to operate like a business. Granular cost tracking and reporting are essential to effective management from financial perspectives, which means you need a tool which can attribute costs to every entity and action involved in the supply chain and be able to roll up the analysis in these costs to the service level. Now, with some services or service components outsourced to the cloud service monitoring is critical. You want to outsource the effort of managing these elements, but you want to retain that visibility. To get to the stage of efficiency, organizations need to manage a much larger automation footprint, supporting more processes, data, and users. At this stage, the effort required to migrate to a new tool set would be much higher than at levels 1 and 2, and this process would set back the IT maturity roadmap. The explosion of toolset complexity is one reason why IT organizations struggle to evolve past the average maturity and why it's so important to think ahead when selecting your IT management toolset. Now, one approach to solve for toolset complexity is to select an IT management suite with a broad native functionality, one which carries lower application management overheads than it's a solution comprising a loose set of integrated applications and tools. Now, looking at this at level 4, IT delivers an optimized end-user experience. End users now benefit from seamless omni-channel experience with anytime, any place, any device access to services and support via a mature digital portal. The next transition sees IT recasting itself as a creative business partner capable of driving and executing the digital business agenda. This is going from that level 4 to level 5. Now, level 5, to be a business partner and optimize. Let's talk about that quickly. So only 10% of IT organizations self-identify at level 3, right? So now we're looking at about 1% that self-identify here at the level 5 on the maturity stack. Now here, IT runs as a slick operation. IT support, when it's called, is accessed via web and mobile interfaces. The main workload for staff is executing a portfolio of technology projects to improve business performance, shortening the time to market, enhancing end user experience. On the people front, IT people are integrated into the business at all levels, ending with the vision, them and us, mentally between the business and us and IT. On the process side, IT operations are exemplary in terms of efficiency, exhibiting, and in many cases, defining the best practices. Business unit leaders adopt proven IT service management practices to improve their own operations. On the management front, everything that happens in IT is very visible, measured and under the management's control. There are no blind spots, which means there are few unpredictable factors. Business portfolio management is fully integrated with IT. So IT projects reflect technology-driven nature of the enterprise. Processes have reached a level of maturity where an organization runs out of published best practices to adopt and adapt and must continue to evolve processes based on a blend of statistical analysis and experimentation. Now, moving forward, IT needs to assess opportunities to move from running IT like a business to running IT as a direct revenue generating value of the business. So on the technology side, infrastructure combines fluidity and reliability. Automation monitors changing patterns of business demand, intelligently flexes the infrastructure to accommodate without any human interaction. The level of human administration is reduced to such a degree that a majority of time spent by IT professionals is dedicated directly to advancing the efficiency and profitability of the business through the application of cutting-edge technologies, which is delivering a competitive edge. Now, going from level 4 to 5, again, a very time-consuming ordeal, but there are steps you can do to do that. So for those at level 4 trying to get to level 5, let's talk about the people. So the first step would be co-location of IT people with business people to enable effective collaboration. Business relationship managers and line of business technology experts frequently camp out or are permanently placed with the business units they serve and advise. Periodically rotating developers into IT operations roles so they understand downstream impact of their work is also highly effective. On the process front, institute tight integration between development teams and IT operations, adapting and consolidating processes from a single, clearly structured, innovative process where all constituent parts can see the whole process and understand the impact of where they do and how it might cause a spike in things like service desk calls. On the management side, we're fully embracing agile principles to deliver minimum viable services at the earliest opportunity and enabling faster access to value. Feedback from end users begins immediately, allowing improvement iterations to begin sooner. Risk of delivering inappropriate solutions is reduced here. Rework cycles are reduced. IT is able to do more with less. End users are always engaged and satisfaction is optimized. Now, thinking about how technology is changing here, we're continually assessing new technologies and architectures for their ability to balance, advance reliability, agility, and integrity, I should say, and reduce operating costs. IT people need to scan externally technology markets for bare metal technologies and more complete managed offerings and evaluate how these might fit into the IT ecosystem. Now, on the IT ops front, at level 5, toolset requirements become highly specialized. So there is no such thing as a typical IT operations technology wish list. However, some of the advanced automation capabilities that a high maturity organization might include would be service supply chain views to support SIAM, Kanban type technologies, gamification, integration between knowledge management and social IT tools, support for managing service scrums and user stories, release trains. Also, too, the integration between IT management and business portfolio management tools, as well as integration with ERP and CRM systems. One thing to note is that flexibility will be a key requirement at this stage. At level 5, an IT organization will be continually bending and flexing to create rapidly emerging business requirements. So tool sets that impose processes or require coding or scripting that make adaptations to processes will not be well suited to such a rapid pace of change. At this level, your organization will have unique requirements which may not be fully serviced by lower tier IT management tools. Select a vendor who can provide broad functionality, broad integration, and is quick to respond to emerging customer needs. So where to start, right? So what is our current IT maturity level? So ask yourself that question. What does a mature IT organization look like to the business? And finally, where does the business need to go in the next 3 to 5 years, right? So what you want to do is identify what that current gap is and what the future gap may be. So that's a great starting point. Now, along your journey, I want to give you some takeaways from our session today. The first would be IT needs to switch out of heads down firefighting mode and spend a bit of time working out what the real priorities are. Don't obsess too much with processes. A mature IT organization is a balanced IT organization. Consider the people, technology, and management angles. Don't focus on one, focus on all. Go build an IT maturity roadmap and plot a way out of the break-fix nightmare that is marring IT performance and the performance of your business. Pay attention to the organizational change aspects. An IT maturity roadmap involves a number of areas of transformation. And finally, harness technology to manage technology. Today's enterprise IT estates are too large and complex to manage without sophisticated tools. At this stage, I want to hand this back over to our moderator, Jessica, for our questions and answers.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin, for that great presentation. It looks like we have time for one question. So the question that came in, the first question actually that came in is, at my organization, we are somewhere between awareness and committed. From your experience, how long should the transition take to being fully committed, assuming all cylinders are firing for people, process, and technology?
So that's a very complex question. I didn't hear the type of organization or vertical mentioned for that, so that could vary based on the line of business that you're in. So going from the kind of the level 1 to level 2, if I understand correctly, is what you're trying to get to. There is no set time frame where it should take 9 months or 18 months. I think historically Gartner analysts say that you're looking at about, on average, maybe an 18-month journey to do that. My advice is, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier in the presentation, is kind of focus on the basics. At that level, incident management, problem management, request fulfillment, even knowledge management can help you along that journey. So I think, focus more on the journey than the the destination, right? So it could be 10 months, it could be 18 months. But I think without knowing more details, it's going to be hard to give you what I think it'll take. But just know on average it's 18 months. But don't lose sight of the basics. Incident, problem, knowledge. Get your change process in place at that phase. Enjoy the journey and just nose to the grindstone and enjoy the work at that point. I hope that answers your question.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Kevin. So that actually concludes our webinar for today. I'd like to thank everyone who attended for joining us. If we did not get to your question or you think of one following the webinar, please feel free to email us at im@axiossystems.com or tweet us at axios_system. That information is actually in your chat box right now. So we hope that you have enjoyed the rest of your day, and bye for now.